Hi everyone. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Let's open. Okay, I think it
turn it on in my phone.
I think it just started even. Happy Thursday, everyone.
If you're here with us, say hello.
Yes, in the comment section. Welcome back for another Emotional Health Thursday, self-care for Black girls. And today we're talking intimate partner violence.
Yes, a serious one. Here we go. We are in there.
See it? Perfect. All right, so as you're joining in, feel free to say your hellos in the comments, and of course you can always engage what we're discussing in the comment section as well. Any questions you may have, any commentary you may have, we're here to respond and interact.
Let me tag it everyone.
Okay, and while we're doing that, just want to wish everyone a happy October. We hope that this month is treating you all well. Of course, each month we try to bring you all topics that are based on the awareness initiatives celebrated in that particular month.
Maybe because it's yours, I'm not able to do it.
Let me try.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Yes. Oh, happy October. For those who don't know, it's second new year too.
Yes.
As a new harvest, and hopefully you start your thoughts for the new season in a way that is about what next, what I want to complete, what I want to start. And so I always say this is a good chance to say to yourself, I'm starting some of those New Year challenges that I might have let go and still kind of run them for the end of the year or get them back up, and acknowledge that there's no such thing as perfection when we're trying to achieve our goals. It's just working at it.
That is true.
So happy October.
Happy October. I actually need to write New Year goals. Especially my birthday falls in October, so people are like, what are the goals? And I'm still doing the ones from the new year.
I'm just trying to hold on.
Seriously. But that makes sense. I'm gonna do that.
Yes. And the new season, new harvest season.
Right, and October is also National ADHD Awareness Month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, LGBTQ plus History Month, and National Down Syndrome Awareness Month.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I didn't realize it was all those.
Yeah. I feel like they add new ones each year as well.
It's just like with those, when it be like National Daughters Day, I'm like, when did this come up? Who created this last Tuesday?
Seriously.
And it's always cute.
But awareness is great regardless. All right, and of course today we'll focus more on domestic violence / intimate partner violence. We're going to talk about its prevalence amongst Black women, as well as safety strategies and resources for Black women specifically. Of course, trigger warning, this is a very sensitive topic, so please listen with care and also take care of yourself as needed. And if you or someone that you know is experiencing intimate partner violence, we hope that this resonates with you. And also we encourage you to share with people as well, just to spread that awareness and support.
Yes. So we definitely would love for you to say hello and to just let us know you're with us, but we also understand if this is something you need to pace yourself through to come back and watch later, it's still an option.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now let's just define intimate partner violence. So this can include physical, emotional, sexual, financial, and psychological abuse. Some warning signs include control, isolation, gaslighting, and intimidation. And intimate partner violence also includes the non-physical abuse and may look like financial, spiritual, and digital abuse. Okay, and statistics show that more than 40% of Black women experience physical violence, sexual violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. That's a crazy amount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then if 40%, that's more than one. That's more than 1/3. Okay.
In their lifetime. And it's interesting thinking about age as well, where for some people it can be from a very young age to older Black women, and just because this is one, I'm wondering if young girls are also included, because all of this can even show up in those relationships.
Yeah, I think it actually shows up really early in all of our relationships, related to specifically intimate partner violence. I think you start seeing signs of it early on in terms of your teen dating, into your young adult dating, and then even into your continuation of adult dating. And I think part of that is because some of the blurred lines between the definitions of what is considered abuse and what's not is also where we tend to have this tendency to think that, well, I fight back, he don't do nothing, like, so it's like these options that opt us out of saying that we're being abused,
Yeah.
versus looking at the reality of, is this a psychological, emotion? I'm gonna call it emotional just for a minute, because that's a little easier to flush than psychological, because sometimes we don't know what psychological issues are.
Completely, yeah.
But when we think about it from like emotional abuse, sometimes it's like talking to each other poorly, always trying to make you guilty of something, always telling them that you're not loving them enough. Like, it's certain things that are being done ongoing that might not seem like a larger physical abuse, and that's not to say it's more, it is, one is better than the other.
Yeah.
But it's to say that you might be in an abusive relationship, and it's just the psychological damage that they're doing, the emotional damage that they're doing to your identity, your self-esteem, your sense of self, even questioning yourself. I almost say, like, if we think about where we are in politics now, it's almost like sometimes you're questioning what's real, what's not, because you're being gaslit so much around like what's the truth and what's not. The same is happening in some of our relationships, and I think about some of our young girls in relationships where it's like, oh, he's just jealous. Well, no, that jealousy is going to cost it to escalate to where he feels he has to control you.
Exactly.
Right? Because now there's one little thing you let go became 6 or 7 times in a row. Right?
Yeah, and even just the language around what's healthy or unhealthy, like he's just jealous because he loves you so much. Like, I wish I had someone who loved me that much. Like, these messages are basically telling a lot of young Black girls that this is normal behavior that then can escalate, and even they start to question themselves in terms of, but is it my fault? Did I do anything wrong? Or like, is this really a problem? Or
am I making it too much? Or I should be okay because somebody wants me.
Exactly.
Right? And I think a lot of times we just, we don't see how easy it can be to get more engulfed into a relationship that's unhealthy than we intended to. Where we start out saying, we're never gonna let this happen, we're never gonna let this happen. And then, 2 months in, a month in, and you're like, but I really like him. Right. He only does it sometimes. And it's like, well, we're 6 months in all of a sudden. And now it's a year in. And just like that, it's like, well, I've been with him so long, so now I gotta make this work. Or I've been with them so long, and now I gotta make it work. So it's like seeing the emotional abuse sometimes is much harder, because it's like it doesn't come off as so aggressive and so threatening and so clear as possibly a physical abuse. And that's not to say one is worse than the other. I just want to make that clear. But it's to say that one can be more of a silent killer along the way. When I'm doing trainings, I talk about the difference between immediate violence and progressive violence. And when you think about emotional abuse, it's specifically the one that's more progressive, which means that the signs might not be clear, and all of a sudden you're in it. It's like in the beginning you're questioning, like, am I overreacting, or was this something? Am I overreacting, or is this a big red flag, or just a yellow one? Like, you're constantly trying to play this game of like the mind games, honestly. Also, am I self-sabotaging, or is this really worth leaving this person for? Especially if they have all of these other great, exactly. He's so great here.
Exactly.
So great this way.
And then it escalates maybe 6 months to a year later, and it's like, well, we already came this far, and I love them, and they're trying to change, and it's a whole thing. And so, of course, we're gonna go right into those healthy and unhealthy patterns in relationships. So, 1, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and emotional safety. It should not include fear or control, and both people should feel free to be their authentic selves without judgment or manipulation.
And I think, let's just slow them down for a second. Like, the foundation becomes the root of how you continue things that are healthy or unhealthy, right? And so I think being able to see some of the smaller signs during that early foundation might be things like calling you to check on where you exactly are when you said you were coming somewhere, saying that, kind of asking you why you're not where you're supposed to be without saying it that way, or like little signs that might not seem like that big of a deal in the moment, but they should be at least yellow flags or orange, like whichever one you want to pick, like,
whatever color it is,
whatever color before red, but not green, because there's a sign that there's a possibility that this could get even more unhealthy once it becomes long-term and more connected. Completely,
Yep. And if we're thinking about those key traits, and we're starting with healthy before we go into unhealthy, just because there's a lot of more to unpack when it comes to the unhealthy. So when it comes to the healthy, some key traits are respect. So each partner values the other's voices, boundaries, and individuality. And basically just not having to shrink to keep the peace in a relationship, right?
Yeah. And I'll wait till we get to unhealthy.
Because there's so much.
Yeah, because I'm just like, this is where it's like so easy for Black women specifically to feel like sometimes we want to like silence our voice some in order to be in these relationships where we're not able to be our greatest selves, and it feels like it's so disingenuous where it's like you have to be someone to make him love you. Then that in itself says that it might be that it's not a healthy relationship. But I also know that that's partly what we've been taught from our community, from like the community expectation that we take care of everyone and we do everything, right? So it's like, it's hard to be, it's just our individual choice. It's a lot of the systems that we've been, like your parents, your community, the people who you watch dating others. It's like there's some level of expectation that you take certain things that other women probably would never be asked to take.
Completely, yeah. It's like you have to put on a facade to not come across as too aggressive or too combative in order to maintain the relationship.
And then you losing your voice and you never probably was combative, aggressive, or any of those things. You just didn't never want to speak too loudly or talk too aggressively because you thought it would label you those things.
Completely, yeah. All right, and we'll get to the more unhealthy. But another key trait of a healthy relationship is trust. So when there's openness and honesty without constant suspicions or checking up. Also communication, so partners talk to each other and not at each other, right? Disagreements are handled with calm discussion, not blame or threats. And even if those more toxic conversations or discussions are had, still finding a way to work backwards and resolve the conflict effectively.
And be willing to accept that some of these things that you're defining are the things that you need in yourself first.
Yeah.
Right, like, and I'm gonna say first, as you're in these relationships, you can be working on improving your trust in self, your decision making, because a lot of that is like a healthy person helps to make a healthy relationship.
Completely, yeah. Just those general interpersonal skills. Also equality, so decisions should feel shared and power should not feel one-sided in a relationship. Support, where both partners encourage each other's growth emotionally, spiritually, professionally, in all realms. Safety, right? So you should be feeling emotionally and physically safe and not anxious or afraid about how that person will react. And that's a key thing to pay attention to as well when it comes to the gaslighting, where our bodies will tell us what we're feeling even when our minds try to brainwash us or try to tell us that things are okay. If you find your body feeling tense with someone despite your mind saying, I should be okay because I love him and he's my or like they're my partner, your body's telling you something else. So
and I think that's where like learning about yourself with your attachment style, where you got these desires in terms of attachment related to connectedness or non-connectedness, like avoidance versus so learning those things help you also to discern if you're actually trying to make this more than what it is, when the relationship just might be toxic. Right.
Completely.
Some stuff is just isn't like and sometimes it's because the work I haven't quite finished and or I'm doing with myself, I'm not clear as to what my styles are based off of my own experience with relationship, experience with community. I'm not sure about all of those things, so it's harder for me to make a good healthy decision around the relationship that I'm in. So I think it's really helpful when you were saying those examples. I'm like, oh, those are like examples of knowing your own attachment style and what would make you make a decision to say make that red flag into a yellow when it basically is a burning red.
Completely. And if we're thinking attachment styles, again, it's the anxious attachment style. There's more confidence, or what's the word looking at? Secure. There we go. Secure attachment style. And so it's important to really check in. Of course, there's also avoidance. Like knowing your attachment style will let you know how you typically navigate relationships in general, and then also how you might be navigating conflicts
within those relationships. Because you're trying to get back to that feeling of safety, even when possibly the attachment style that you're living in is not fully developed and secure. So then that way when you're making decisions of safety, it's not even equating to what real safety might be. Because you've gotten familiar with emotional violence, you've gotten familiar with physical violence in your homes or in your community, right? And I think that's the hard part, where it's like, this is not about blaming yourself, it's about acknowledging that I gotta learn me too in order to make a decision that's healthiest for myself and my family.
Completely. All right, and last but not least in the key traits for healthy relationships is accountability.
Absolutely.
So when harm happens, which it may happen in any relationship, There's willingness to take responsibility and changing those behaviors. And accountability is important to also pay attention to when it comes to unhealthy relationships, where people may take false accountability. They're saying, I'm so sorry I did this thing, I'll never do it again. I promise the world. And then next week they're doing it again.
Yeah.
And now you're doing the mind games again of, am I overreacting? Like maybe they did improve, they took 5 steps forward. Yes, it took 10 steps back now, but they're trying, right? And then you're now trying to justify things in your mind. And that's really not accountability when you think about it, because the person is just, they're kind of stringing you along with the same behavior that will only escalate as time goes on.
Well, they're gaslighting you. And the reason they're doing so is to be able to get you back into good grace so they can get back into the behavior of control.
Right.
And so when we think about it, what I'm hearing from that healthy, when it comes to accountability, it's a clear taking responsibility for your actions and then changing your actions throughout the entirety of the relationship. If that person is only changing it in order to get back in your bed, in order to get back in your house, if that person is only changing it to get to what they desire, then it's not accountability.
Right, it's just manipulation.
It's just manipulation.
Yeah. Right, and just kind of, healthy love does not silence you. It doesn't punish you. It doesn't punish your honesty. It creates space for both people to grow together and individually. Now, unhealthy relationships, like Sharea was saying, they often begin subtly, right? And it's through patterns of control, manipulation, or emotional harm that then escalate over time. One key trait of an unhealthy relationship is control. And this is when one partner tries to dominate, deciding who you talk to, where you go, or even how you dress. Okay. Another is isolation, so cutting you off from friends, family, or support systems under the guise of love or protection.
And this is a tricky one, because what might seem like the right thing to do comes in baggage like, well, your girlfriends ain't really that good for you. They be giving you bad advice. You probably should stop hanging with them, spend less time with them. They don't have no man, so that's why you shouldn't be around them, right? So all of a sudden it's these conversations about trying to get you out of relationships that make it seem like I'm doing it for the better of us and the better of you. But what it's doing is it's starting to isolate you from community connection, and then it'll start being your family, because it'll be like, oh, your family is a little toxic.
They're so negative.
They're so negative. They don't really like me, so they of course not gonna want to talk good about me. So maybe we should just not tell them about our relationship. And then all of a sudden it goes from not telling them to not being able to go to holiday events and not being able to, right? All of a sudden it goes to these things that was like, wait, my family is unhealthy, but you got me totally twisted where I can't even see them.
Exactly. And now they're your only support system, and they can do whatever. Right. And it starts very, very subtly. But I've even heard this with clients where it's like, my partner said it's me, or it's my friends or them. And I'm choosing them because I love them, and like I'm trying to build a future with them. And just small by small, you're losing your network and your support systems. And then
therein lies the word power and control, right? Where it's like, I'm trying to isolate you so that they can get more control over the relationship and you. And that becomes, now you're dependent on me, and then I'm the thing that makes you least safe. So all of a sudden you're depending on someone who's most likely going to violate your safety.
And there is that pattern of abuse.
Yeah.
Right. And even thinking again, when it comes to isolation, there's a trickier dynamic where your partner still, like, you still have your friends. They allow you to have your friends in your life, but they tell you, don't tell them anything about our relationship, right? Like, it's me and you, we're gonna work this out on our own. Don't tell your friends, because they're gonna hate me.
You against the world,
like. And now
you're gonna be against the world.
Right? Now you're in this really, really unhealthy relationship, and you can't even tell your friends. Like, whenever you're around your friends, it feels like something is eating at you, because you really want to tell them. You really want advice and support, but it's like, if I tell them, I'm betraying my partner and my partner's trust.
And then all of a sudden you also just stop coming around.
Right.
Because then they didn't have to do it where it was, okay, I'm going to tell you to leave them. It's I'm taking you away from them in ways where you would normally communicate, connect with. And then all of a sudden it's like, I feel like I'm keeping secrets from these people who I love. You know what? It's easier for me not to be around them as much.
Exactly.
And it's still a form of isolation, or getting you to be isolated from your community and your connections. So that way when you're in harm's way, you have no one to go to.
And then there's even that blame too, of like, he didn't ask me to do this. Right? And then now you're also in your head even more.
And then it's like, how do I go back?
Exactly.
So there's so many areas where it's like the isolation is intentional because it sets them up for control and success later on.
Completely.
Even if they're not doing this knowingly.
Right.
That's a whole nother issue. But the signs are still what the signs
The
are.
signs are still the signs. And that's something that's important to know. Your partner may not intentionally be doing these things, but there are still unhealthy patterns in a relationship, and they should still be addressed.
Yeah.
Right? Next is gaslighting, which we have used so far today.
Mm-hmm.
And this basically means that someone is making you doubt your reality, saying things like you're overreacting or that never happened when it in fact did.
Or wasn't as serious. You know, you did it, or I did it, but you're taking it out of the context of what I meant. I didn't mean to call you a ugly ass or whatever. I was just mad at the moment. Like, and so it's like I'm dismissing what could have hurt you and making it more minor or acting as if it didn't happen at all.
I'm sorry that you're mad, but
yeah.
Another added.
I wouldn't do these things if, like, come on, dude, or woman, because you could also have same sex. I want to make that clear too. These relationships don't only have to be men who abuse men. It could be women who abuse women, and women who abuse men.
Completely.
And that's important to remember too, because some of these signs, if you see them in yourself, it may be time to get your own support around making sure that you aren't trying to control someone to love you.
Completely. Yep. All right, next up, when it comes to key traits of an unhealthy relationship, is jealousy and possessiveness. And this can look like constant accusations, checking your phone, or even monitoring your whereabouts. And these are things that, again, in the beginning can feel like, oh, they just love me so much.
Exactly.
They
just
really
know me.
They want to know that I'm safe, all of these different things, but then it's escalating in a way that's restricting you and making you feel hyper cautious of where you're even going or how you're living.
And you're starting to feel yourself checking in, making sure they know, even when they're not, because you don't want the heat that comes from not telling them. You don't want the extra emotions that might come along with them acting as if the world is ending because you didn't call them or talk to them, right? Those types of things may start feeling like you're doing it to help the relationship, but you're doing it to prevent from it getting escalated to more.
Yeah, and you're escalating those power and control dynamics.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah, and even the checking of the phone, like that is just so invasive. And I think sometimes people frame it as, I'm just making sure, or
I
just
don't get it.
But it's not. Like there was no trust in the relationship. And also now you can't even use your phone freely. Not that you'll be cheating or anything, but
like
even
I'm over here playing a game,
right? So like
I'm over here playing a game or strolling on TikTok or whatever. You about to kill me over it. And I laugh on one hand, but it's really sad because some people can't see that as a red flag.
Yeah.
When in reality, and even if you just saw it as a yellow flag. We're not asking for all of them to be red, but when what's going on there around jealousy and control and the obsessiveness of it, that becomes where it's something that will become every area, not just the phone.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like you can take these as individual red flags, but also think about them as in the whole context when it comes to an unhealthy relationship or an abusive relationship, right? And next is financial abuse. Which can look like controlling money, withholding resources, or even sabotaging your own independence.
Absolutely. So I have a person that I worked with in the past who literally had no control over her checking. And I say that because their money was she worked at a job and the money was deposited into their quote unquote a joint account, and she had no access to it though. So really it's his account.
Yeah.
It's just his and her account because she has to have it on there so she can direct deposit, right? And so it really came down to when she was looking to separate from the relationship, she had to do hidden funds, find a way to get money, put things aside, to do safety planning around getting out and getting out safely without stopping the financial abuse and it being so obvious that that's what she's doing. And I remember thinking that when I first heard it, I was like, I wonder how he said this to you in the beginning. I never asked her because that wasn't the work we were doing. But in my mind, I'm thinking it didn't seem like a big deal. It just seemed like we're working together as a family. Because I know it was like, oh, we're gonna get this house and we're gonna try to do these things.
And we'll put it in my name so it's it's
and
more secure.
Then all of a sudden you can't get. She had no credit cards. So we did end up getting her a credit card on the side. We did some safety planning items, but literally we had to get a girlfriend to save money on her behalf.
That's insane.
And that, and she did it because it really was collecting the money that he gave her an allowance, which basically she had to use that allowance to start saving and then just make sure she budgeted every single dime with the groceries and stuff.
Yeah.
And we did that for months. Like,
It's crazy. It's crazy the different approaches that are taken. I had a past client as well who was a housewife. And in this case, the husband is the one that's working, of course, manages the accounts. And in this case, it gets to a point where they're controlling, again, the client's independence, they're controlling the client's like abilities, like even just buying groceries up to how much he can offer. And then in their case, it was unique because he passed away. And now she's left with the debts. And
I don't know what else
the marriage,
happened.
like now you're seeing all the financial things, and you're realizing that he did not have as much control as he like supposed to have, and it was a whole
like it was
issue.
controlling over you doesn't mean he's in order in life.
Exactly.
Right, and usually if we think about abusers and people who abuse others, there's a lot of insecurities, there's a lot of denial of actual conflict of trauma that they have they are not dealing with. And a lot of this is the reason they feel the need to do power and control is knowing their own attachment stuff and all that stuff. But also it's like, this is the only way that I can have an identity of wholeness because this is how I get to get people in line.
Right.
So it's all control. And so if I can control this one area, that doesn't mean I'm most likely controlling any other area.
Right.
There's probably a high likelihood that they over there failing you and themselves.
Which is adding to their own like frustration enemies. Next we have emotional abuse, which is the name calling, the insults, the humiliation tactics, and even just manipulation. Right, and
the threatening.
Right. Last but not least, we have physical or sexual abuse, which can look like using violence, coercion, or threats to instill fear or force, or even just force intimacy as well.
And forced intimacy doesn't always look like what we think in the movies around sexual assault, and which is like, oh, he came in and he just pushed me down. And sometimes it's, well, you're supposed to have sex with me, I'm your husband. If I wanted, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what your body is saying, you should have sex with me because I'm your man, right? Or I'm the person you're with, so you gotta have sex with me,
or
right?
You don't need protection because you're with me. If you want protection, that means you're cheating on me. Like all of these little.
And then you end up burning.
Yes.
Because he's out there doing 17 other women, but that's another whole story. But that's where it's like we don't see it as like, it's not sexual assault unless it looks this way. But the threats, if you don't do this, then I'll leave you, and this is what a woman is supposed to do. Those types of things are still putting us in the position of being controlled by another person and taking away our consent to be able to have autonomy over our bodies. And a lot of times, especially when you add words like wife or girlfriend, we've been together for so long, all of a sudden you feel obligated because they've made it feel as if this is your role.
Completely.
And just like that, you're giving in, but you may have not enjoyed sex for the last 20 years as a result of someone just constantly taking what doesn't belong to them without consent.
Completely. And even just things like you're being so boring. Or I'm not even going out. I could get it out there, but I'm not going out. And now you're feeling the pressure.
Gotta step my game up. I gotta be doing stuff I don't want to do.
Like these are all forms of physical or sexual abuse that one should keep an eye out for, and just ultimately remembering that when someone's love makes you feel small, scared, or constantly apologetic, that's not love. That's control.
Constantly apologetic. That one's a good one. Go ahead. Because I never see people like, and it's sad because you don't even realize that you're doing it. Once you're in it, so often it becomes like a routine of like, and I feel like one of my clients, she literally like does everything in her power to make sure that her husband is good, that she's lost herself in the long run. Like there's no more skating around this. He's got everything he needs. You got nothing now.
Completely.
And it's like years of this, and to get out of it is not as easy as people think.
Yeah, because it's a lot to work through. You're working through guilt, you're working through shame, you're working through fear, right? And this idea of a failed relationship and everything under the sun. And even like, how did I get to this point? There's the anger, there's the hatred, like.
And then the likelihood, especially once there is violence in it, of leaving, the likelihood of being killed is 7 to 8 times more when you are trying to leave. So it's really hard when people be like, oh, why do they stay? They should just leave. Well, it's easy to say on the outside when many of us are in unhealthy relationships in the first place, but you can judge one that looks unhealthier than yours, right? But in reality, they didn't get there in the first date.
Completely.
And now it's much harder to just remove or separate yourself from this relationship. And then there's the likelihood that if it heightens to the point of possibly dying, then I don't even want to take that risk. So a lot of times when we think, why do people stay? It's bigger than just I want to leave or stay. It's because sometimes I have to stay for my safety, the safety of my children and my family, and then it takes time to plan your way out. I know with the client that I was talking about earlier, this wasn't like a year, this was years.
Of course.
And if you're thinking about saving a few $100s a month to try to get out, just to get a lawyer was one of the goals, and that was so expensive because she could not afford. And all the services that they say are eligible and available sometimes are not very good services related to advocacy, and then the courts themselves is a whole nother story.
Even the police.
And like
yeah,
I have many stories of where I went to the court system and basically I had a client get ran over.
Jeez.
And the court asked them what they did.
No, people are crazy.
Like,
it's crazy.
That's where we are when we think about the safety of women, and specifically Black women. It's easy to kind of put it aside and say, what did you do? How did we get here? When in reality, I didn't do anything to get here besides not see the signs early enough, and or I saw the signs and I didn't understand them that way. Like that doesn't give another person the right to put me in the position of possibly dying.
Completely.
No matter how much you like or love a person, they don't have a right to do anything to harm you.
Completely. And that even takes us perfectly into systemic barriers that people experience to help seeking.
Right in it.
So the first is stigma and fear of judgments within the community. So many Black women have been raised in environments that romanticize struggle. We're taught that real love takes work, or that enduring pain proves loyalty in a relationship. Some of us mistake this ride or die energy for commitment when it's really self-abandonment.
Like where am I riding to and dying? Like I don't.
Why do I have to die?
Yeah, like is there a part in this story where I just get to live a good, happy, joyful life?
And even unhealthy behaviors just becoming normalized by what we've seen growing up in the media or even in the church.
Absolutely.
Right? Because spiritual or community expectations may reinforce silence. This idea of what happens in the home stays in the home. And then lastly, of course, the strong Black woman stereotype, which often pressures women to stay in harmful relationships, to appear unbreakable, to hold it down, or to not be another statistic.
Or defining their relationship as mutual abuse, where then therefore it looks as if their abuse is mutual, then it can't be that I'm being abused.
Right, because I fight back.
And and not realizing that the power dynamic is more than just fighting back. It's what has gotten us into these constant fights, and why do we have to even escalate? Because even that could be a part of the control, which is putting you in a position to think that you're the bad guy too.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. I think what even stood out to me here is just this idea of loyalty, where it feels like, oh, I'm not being loyal if I walk away now, or like I'm not being strong enough and I should be able to just handle it all. Especially when you think about, for someone who gets into a relationship with someone who initially seems great, but then over time becomes more abusive. Some family members or friends may have said, oh, I don't think that you should be with this person. And then over time it's like, okay, it's me and this person against the world, right?
Yeah, like they don't get us.
And then once the abuse is escalating, it feels like, well, I can't walk away now because I'm trying to prove people wrong.
And I can't go back to those people.
Exactly.
And then they tell me, look, we told you so. Even if they never tell you that, that's the feeling you might have.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes this like dance you're navigating to kind of figure out, how do I get out of this without looking like a fool, versus just the reality that you made a bad decision, and the decision needs to be, now you need a new decision.
Exactly. Right. So part of that is even normalizing that as Black women we can make mistakes, and it's okay to admit that, and if it's to guarantee your safety and your own like well-being overall,
and your emotional safety, your physical safety, your spiritual safety, your financial safety, all of those things are equally as important to remember that you deserve to have the best. I think part of it also, when we think about systems and the barriers that come with it, I just want to talk about families for a second. I think sometimes without knowing, in our best efforts, we can make people feel like it's do something or have nothing. Right? Which is like, you shame young women who aren't married by a certain point or dating seriously by a certain point. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if I get someone, I gotta hold on to them because I don't want to be an embarrassment to my family or to the religious practice that I'm a part of. But what we don't realize is that now we're allowing people to think that it's okay to be abused as long as you stay together.
Right.
Like, no, Brandy's. I was talking with someone just the other day that talked about how it was the ride or die statement, but talked about how we fantasize or we make it seem as if these long-term relationships equated to health.
Right.
And we talk about relationships that our grannies might have had with our grandfathers,
Yeah.
but we don't look at even the systems around them didn't require them to actually have to take certain things, or couldn't take out loans, couldn't leave their home and actually buy their own home, right? So there's things that were systemically in place that made sometimes our grandmothers stay more than just love, right? And so when we look at it now, we're trying to fight for something that was this fantasy that wasn't real, and grandpa or grandma wasn't as great as we put them up to be. When then sometimes it's like, just because you had longevity don't mean because you had health.
Completely.
Like, and I think when we stop looking at it, or start looking at it as a whole and not just the years, then we can start saying to ourselves, well, maybe I want something different. Maybe I don't want to ride or die. Maybe I want to share companionship with a partner who wants to live in joy. Like, why do I gotta die?
Yeah.
Like,
and even if you do strive for longevity, because of course no one goes into a marriage praying it's gonna end, but be praying for a healthy one regardless, and not one that's just I'm sticking beside him.
Absolutely. And I think part of that, and I said it earlier, and I say it to everyone, when people ask me what makes my marriage healthy, I say 2 healthy people. Not like, there's always going to be parts of life where everyone isn't exactly the same, but there's a certain baseline of trust, communication, understanding our boundaries around anger and harm, like understanding safety for the other person and what that looks like. There's certain things that no matter where we are in our relationship, from the very beginning, we're set as a tone of like, no matter what we deal with, we got to make sure these things are solid, or none of the other stuff is going to matter, because you're going to be controlling, you're going to be hurtful, and I'm going to be out.
Right, simple.
Like, it's not even a question. You know, some people are like, oh, well, no, you love them. I absolutely love my husband. Start this nonsense today,
and it's not gonna work.
Bag up.
Right.
Like, and he knows that, and I would hope that he would say the same, because I would never want him to feel any of the things that make him feel harmed. Not say, I'm not doing this with you. Like, I don't want to hurt someone that much, and I don't want to be hurt by anyone like that.
Completely. Right, and next is lack of culturally competent services. Right, many intimate partner violence programs and shelters are not designed with Black women specific experiences in mind. Staff may lack cultural understanding or perpetuate stereotypes, causing survivors to feel unseen or unsafe. And then of course, faith-based or community healing spaces can sometimes be more trusted, but may also discourage disclosure to promote forgiveness over safety.
And
I can't.
Yeah.
That's a whole
that's a whole episode by itself. But when we think about that, community programs or spiritual programs where we can't tell the full truth, and then when we do, they promote forgiveness. They promote forgiveness without any repentance and or change, just because of a title. No justice in it. Oh, justice is all the way out the door. Like, come on, we got to just go ahead and forgive with no justice connected to that forgiveness. It's like that expectation of justice goes against what you might learn and or believe you've learned. Because I believe
they turn the other cheek.
Yeah, but that's,
they love that.
I love that they love that line, but then they don't say an eye for an eye.
Right.
And like, you know, like, we're gonna do this. Let's play this all the way out. And so it's funny that we think about it from that control point without looking at, like, I will not accept this because it puts a violation to me and my body, whatever that means, emotion, whatever way. I'm not doing it to you. Don't do it to me.
Completely. And even just the rhetoric around forgive and forgets, like. I've always been one that said I can forgive, but I can't forget. But of course, like, if you want to be like Jesus, you have to forget. In an abusive relationship, you cannot forget.
You gotta really forget.
Like
even that, like.
Right. Okay. I know for the sake of time, we'll keep going. So
somebody wanted to say something. Somebody said that 2 whole people mesh better than 2 broken individuals, or when one is whole.
Completely.
Or when only one is whole. I apologize, but that's absolutely the truth. Like, you can't make someone, and that's the other thing, like, when you think about one being whole, you can't always make another person desire wholeness. And that's a hard lesson when you are a whole person, because you know what work it might have taken, the energy you put into being whole, and then now it's like, I want this other person to get there because of what you know it feels like to be there. You don't know their story fully, even when they share it to you.
Completely. Next is economic disparities in housing instability, and this is still under systemic barriers to help seeking. So Black women are disproportionately affected by economic inequities, lower wages, limited access to stable housing, and underemployment. And abusers may exploit these vulnerabilities using financial control to trap victims in unsafe relationships. And then, of course, also just lack of affordable housing, childcare, and culturally responsive shelters makes escaping abusers even harder.
Mm-hmm.
And in this economy, even worse.
Absolutely. And I think to flip that on the other side, I personally don't know the stat for this one, so I'm making it up as I go.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that our households are more Black women led
Oh, yeah.
than others. And as a result, sometimes even that could be used against us. You don't know how to let a man be a man.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta let me learn, let me lead, let me, like, all these lingos. And something that you always, what kills me is like, you wanna lead, but you ain't never had nothing to lead me with.
Serious.
Anyway, but all of that lingo that puts you back in a position of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And puts you back in this position where you don't feel confident that you are a good woman
Mm-hmm.
if you're not taking or accepting certain things. Because I do think that dynamic also plays out culturally, that when you go to some of the IPV programs, they don't even address that part of the financial abuse, where it's like it's used against me to be successful, to be prosperous, because then I'm not a good enough mother, I'm not a good enough wife, I'm not a good enough spouse. All these things are indicators that I need to change something about me,
Mm-hmm.
and then use that against me with shame.
Mm-hmm. Completely. Right, and next is mistrust for law enforcement, which we also touched on earlier. Historical and ongoing racism in law enforcement and healthcare creates understandable mistrust. Black women are less likely to seek police or court intervention due to fear of being disbelieved, blamed, or re-traumatized.
Absolutely.
And then this leads to underreporting, limited protection, and reduced access to justice and recovery resources.
I can tell you personally, some of the statements I've heard from police officers or lawyers and or the court system when working with my clients who are experiencing domestic violence. I've heard, what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, it's not as bad, just, maybe you should just go away for the night,
Mm-hmm.
even though the girl
They
has a
love
black
that
eye in
one.
her face.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to get you safe for the night only?
Mm-hmm.
Or in some cases, like, I'll take him tonight, but we're not gonna, you don't have to press any charges.
Mm-hmm.
When in New Jersey, I can't speak to every state, New Jersey, they do have the right to press the charges without you as the person, and they still sometimes would rather just not do it than to actually approach the fact that this person is in danger.
Mm-hmm.
I had a woman who literally used to come to therapy just to escape the house, and the husband would come and drive all the way to our parking lot and wait for them because they didn't want them to come to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I called the cops, because I was like, he's following me and I am not about to be followed home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all they told me was, well, try to do a different route.
Because
the man is escalated to the point where he's broken down doors already, all these other things that he has done, and you're telling me that even though I'm telling you I can see the man in the car, and you still is like, no, just take another route.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I think it's really hard for Black women to trust systems that have already been placed against us in other ways, and now in our relationship with safety, even more so.
Yeah, completely. All right, and then last but not least here in the systemic barriers is intersectionality. Black women navigate both racial and gender discrimination, which compounds their experiences of violence and their access to support. When reporting abuse, they may face disbelief, blame, or criminalization, especially from institutions that have historically devalued Black lives. This then creates a double bind, which is the fear of not being protected, and also fear of their partner being unjustly punished because he's a Black man, which adds to the guilt and the internalization.
Which I've heard a lot too, where it's like, I don't want to get him in trouble. I don't want him to get in trouble again.
And
I get that on one side. On the other side of that is that it costs you your life sometimes.
Completely. Like when you think about it, it's self-abandonment because you're prioritizing him and his well-being over yours. Like you're taking
while at the
all
same
of it.
time, we do understand police brutality. We do understand that it escalates sometimes, and you can get killed by mistake, because that's happened with Black women where they call for help and they are the ones who actually are harmed or hurt. And so I do understand those elements. It's just that the systems that we have in place suck.
Yeah.
And some of them we still have to use when it comes to the escalation of violence against us.
And it's also layered, like we were saying before, where let's say now financial abuse is also playing out. And then if you report and he gets arrested, then he loses his job.
It's like all these layers,
right?
Yeah.
His money is what's keeping us alive. If he loses that, then we're both gonna go down. Then he's gonna retaliate. Like it's a layered thing ultimately. So it's understandable why some of these barriers can keep people from help seeking, but it's important to seek help, which we'll get to next, and also just kind of make a plan, a safety plan in some way of how to escape and have your life. So now going into breaking the cycle, healing and empowerment. One is just first understand the cycle of abuse. IPV often follows a pattern. There is a tension, explosion, and then reconciliation, which can repeat and intensify over time. Over time, survivors may begin to internalize the abuse, believing that it's their fault or that things will change. And then, of course, also recognizing that pattern is the first act to freedom.
All right, so I'm going to actually curve it for a second because statistically that isn't proven. In many relationships where there is violence, there is no downtime. It just may seem like a downtime because it isn't as heightened forms of violence. And so what has happened with that's why they came up with the power and control wheel instead of the cycle, because many women don't experience the flowers, the candy getting, all the other isms that make you feel like you should just stay because he loves me. Sometimes sometimes it really is just that the violence looks different. Instead of calling me a stupid idiot, you're hitting me now, right? And so it's like never a real stop. It's just that it doesn't feel as intense. And so I think it's important to remember that sometimes there are cycles, and in many relationships, there's probably just a pattern of abuse ongoing. So I'm thinking about the 3 different ladies that I just talked about. None of them had roses. None of them got flowers. None of them got reconciliation moments. What they got was, you made me do that, just don't do it again, and or I'm gonna hurt you again higher this time, so that last time you kind of get more into place for what I'm expecting you to do for me every time. So I think it's important to remember that you may not see a pattern like that to be able to get to a place where you're like, this is a cycle of him just loving me. You might just need to get the hell out. I'm just like, and the sad part is that is true, because that's the intention of trying to heal something. But most abusers, because they fall within narcissism, they really don't have the capacity to do more than just bring it back to why you're hurting them.
Sure.
I don't mean to say it like, so that's a hard one for people to know, because they're so used to thinking, I'm gonna get those roses. And maybe you don't get roses, maybe you just got a quiet night.
Exactly. But in their mind, that is reconciliation.
Exactly.
Like there's peace.
Exactly. He didn't hit me today.
And
then that could be a feeling of like, but it's still, even that in itself is fear.
Exactly.
Like,
right. And also even just understanding that breaking is hard, but it's also a brave decision. Breaking free is not just about walking away, it's about the healing. It's about healing the emotional, financial, and psychological wounds that keep many women tied to harmful patterns. And we spoke about the barriers to breaking free: fear of retaliation or losing children, economic dependence, emotional attachment or trauma bonding, or cultural pressures, death, cultural pressures to keep the family together, shame, guilt for leaving. It's important to remember that leaving doesn't always mean you stopped loving someone. It means you started loving yourself enough to choose peace.
And to choose you.
And to choose you.
Right. I definitely feel like that's a hard choice. And a lot of people, when they get into intimate partner violence relationships, the dynamics get so long, even when it's a short-term relationship. And it's hard to make the decision that if I don't stop this, anything can happen next. Because you don't feel like, I don't think anyone goes in thinking this is the time he's gonna kill me. Right. And I say that as a person who's lost it. My first cousin, I was sharing this story. Usually I write about it during October, because her birthday is actually in October too. She's a Libra, or she was a Libra. And when she was at her breaking point and leaving is when he killed her. And so when we think about that, it's like, you have to be aware that your decision to leave needs the safety plan on the other side of that. And that's where we need to be able to ask for help and support, so that you don't feel like you have to do it alone. And to get to that point sometimes is the hardest part, which is like, how do I ask for help after being isolated, disconnected, and maybe a little bit kind of like feeling that feeling of I told you so. even everybody see it, everybody saw it, right? How do I get to a place where I say I have to choose me over the humiliation, over the shame, and over the possibility of being harmed? And that's a real difficult place to be when we have the emotional abuse on top of it, and we no longer see ourselves as whole.
Yeah, completely.
So getting to that point, I say, make sure that you communicate. If someone loves you and they've loved you in the past, regardless of what they say or have done, find one person that you can at least entrust with and say, I messed up. I don't know how I got here. I have no idea how I got here, but I'm here. And if I don't get out, I don't know what will happen.
Truly.
So,
right. It's important to even remember that healing is not linear. It's a process of reclaiming safety, identity, and self-worth. It's important to think about these intentional steps. One, safety first. So
Absolutely.
creating a personalized safety plan. This can also look like keeping important documents, money, and pack the bag for a safe place.
And you're putting the website in there, right?
Yeah.
So they'll actually I don't know the name of the website right now. It's a hotline, and I'm sure everybody's seen it. When you go on that website, it actually will disappear out of your cache immediately after you close it. If you close it immediately, it goes away. You can't go back and search it. So I say that because sometimes the digital abuse, we didn't get too deep into it, can be just as aggressive. And with the website, the way it's set up, they also have safety plans on there where you can like see a sample of one. And if not, you can always reach out, let us know you need one. I'll put a PDF one in the thing and you can just use it. I'll call it something else, or you can rename it something else so that it's not a document that won't be easily accessed by the person who's abusing you. But there's
which website is this?
This is the domestic violence website.
Okay.
I can't think of is it NDVR?
I need to find
National.
I have the hotline, but not the website.
So the website will do that for you, and that's why I think it's important, because I know the fear that some will have with accessing websites or digital programs or calling and it being in your especially if you have a person who looks at your history of who you're calling. But the good thing about the website is that it immediately erases out of your cache, and then they can't see that you searched it. And so it's like one of the only that does it. So I think it's important to know that, just so that you can, and if not, I'll put it on there.
I think, is it the hotline.org?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll include that there as well. That's perfect. And then also, let's see.
And there's tons of resources on there that will give you like therapists, things that are specific to IVP. Even if you're interested in getting some kind of legal explanation of what would be best for you and your family if you try to leave, especially financial, they can give you some free advice as well. I'm sorry. No, it's been a while since I actually look at it, but I know that these things are there.
Next is knowing your rights and where to access help. So like you're saying, hotlines, shelters, and advocacy programs, even those that are designed for women of color specifically. If you are listening right now and you are in danger, just lost my tab. Okay, if you're listening right now and you're in danger, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. Or you can also just go on the website for, depending on what feels more accessible and also more safe for you. Also, it's important to start to rebuild independence. So this means working toward financial empowerment, opening your own accounts, connecting with job training or community resources. Economic control is often a weapon of abuse, so regaining financial freedom restores that personal agency. Also, just emotional healing and therapy. So seeking culturally competent, trauma-informed therapists, ideally with a provider who understands the intersection of race, gender, and trauma. That doesn't mean that it has to be a Black woman therapist. It can be anyone, but just being sure that they understand.
Yeah, because you also don't want to be harmed more in a setting that will make you feel shamed.
Exactly.
Related, and that could also be someone who shares your culture. You may be very clear that if you come from a situation where you have spiritual abuse, you may not want to go to an actual Christian therapist, even though they may not. I'm not saying that they would do anything to violate but you may just not want to do it for the sense of being separate for a moment. So I think it's important to look at culture as your full identity.
Right, and even just with that, seeking or exploring support groups for Black women survivors, where shared experience builds community and validation.
Mm-hmm.
Healing may include reconnecting with spirituality, faith, or cultural practices that nurture the soul.
Absolutely.
Right? And then, last but not least, here we have relearning love and boundaries. So, after abuse, learning what healthy love feels like as part of the journey. Practice self compassion and boundary setting with partners,
Mm-hmm.
family, and even with yourself. And of course, journaling and affirmations can be great tools for reframing love as safety, respect, and freedom, and not sacrifice.
And when you do that work, I think it's important to know that there is another side to the darkness. I think a lot of times when you're in these situations, it feels like forever. Because even as a person alongside some, because that used to be a lot of my work for a while. And I don't know how when I opened my practice, it felt like it was mostly all of them. But I say that to say, but even working alongside them, it felt like it was going to be dark for forever. And I say that stressing that I'm a therapist of hope. And what I learned was that there's the other side of that where I can see like all three of those women, they're a success story in a way that I couldn't have seen during it because it was like systems failing us. We don't got no resources. Now I don't have anybody to send this person to get some help because their insurance is attached to their husband. Like, so I'm like, it could feel like there was no out. And when I realized that when you start believing yourself and seeing yourself, and then you have someone who wants what's best for you alongside you, I think it helps to have someone who would take the longevity with you too when it comes to working around the emotional abuse and the things that were set that are beyond just the physical parts in terms of your identity, your self-esteem, and just so much more. So on the other side of that darkness, there's hope and there's light. And I think for all three of them, I'm excited to see what's next for them because they got through that darkness.
Yeah. And it really is, like, breaking the cycle really is collective work.
Absolutely.
Right? And as a community, even just us here today, we can believe and support survivors without judgments.
Yes.
We can educate young people on consent, respect, and emotional regulation. And we can continue to challenge toxic narratives that equate love with control or endurance. Right?
There you go. Stamp.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And even again, we can create safe spaces in churches, community centers, and families where women can speak freely and find resources. Some key questions that I want to leave you all with to ask yourselves, you can use this when you're journaling or just think about, is do I feel safe expressing my true feelings with my partner? Does my partner respect my boundaries and independence? Do I often feel anxious, confused, or small in my relationship? And when conflict arises, do we work towards solutions or control?
Nice. I love those questions. They all give you a good foundation of what next.
Completely. Right, and of course I will put the resources in the comment section. There's a National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-SAFE or 7233. There's a Black Women's Blueprint, which is blackwomensblueprint.org. And then there's a domestic violence website as well, which I'll also include. And then I saw something called Sister Space, which I think might be UK based, but may also be based in the US. But it's a national center on violence against women in the Black community.
I think, hey, that's fine because we have people all over the world here in the group. So sometimes I think, regardless if it's the US, it's valuable. Because that's actually, I've never heard of them, but I would probably check it out after you do it.
Okay, and so to close us out, when the world tells you that you're supposed to be strong all the time, it can make reaching out for help feel like weakness when it's actually courage. So it's important to unlearn survival-based love and rebuild our understanding from a place of worthiness and healing. It's also important to remember that breaking the cycle is not easy, right? It's messy, it's scary, but every small act of choosing yourself is a step forward towards freedom. And you don't have to do it alone. Community, therapy, and sisterhood are here to walk with you.
Absolutely.
All right, so wellness tips.
Drink your water, sis. I mean, for real. Right now it's cold. Well, today it isn't out here in Jersey.
You said it isn't?
It is.
Okay.
Like, you're like, no. Get that
I'm freezing.
It is. And the weather's iffy because it would be hot another day. But anyway, drink your water, sis. Take your walks. Enjoy. Well, I say take walks, but 30 minutes of some type of movement. Doesn't have to be walks, but until we get it cold, go ahead and enjoy a good, nice brisk walk. And Make sure you are eating well, taking care of your body as we're getting into the weather changing times. The healthier we are now, the easier it is for us to fight off illnesses as the winter and collective germs start to get out there. So think about making sure you're eating right, working out, doing your 30 minutes, drinking your water, keeping in good relationships. I know connectedness and social relationships. We also put about spiritual relationships, which is taking care of yourself, not just about prayer, but also being connected to yourself, your identity and who you are, and also things like hiking, availing yourself to meditation, mindfulness, and other things that bring you centered, to bring you to a place of centered and self wellness.
Yeah.
That can be I think I got them all. Which one am I
Yeah,
missing?
vitamin D.
Oh, get your sunlight. Well, the walks.
Yeah.
Take the walk and get some sunlight.
Meditation and mindfulness, which you covered. Joy.
All right, and let's end it on joy, because obviously in such a heavy topic, I hope that you heard at the end was that all three of the examples that I used throughout today, literally all of them are doing really well, and that in itself is hope and joy. And part of joy every day is acknowledging what is good when you can, and then finding moments to celebrate it, even if they're small.
Completely. All right, and now we're going to go into gratitude. So what are you grateful for?
I am grateful. Oh man, I am grateful for a sane mind. I didn't get a lot of rest yesterday. That was the other thing that should be on there, the wellness tip.
Rest.
Make sure you get your rest. You need your hours. I didn't rest really well, but I also know that I know that I need to get rest. I'm very confident that I'll be able to get back. And so I think that sanity helps me to know that when I get out of resting, when I'm not eating right, I can get back on track.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for sanity.
I love that. I would say I'm grateful for community, because I think, like the weather changing, life is lifing, client caseload is increasing. Like there's so many things that are happening that can feel like burdensome, but I think community is just there to help me unload and just check in, which has been really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then positive affirmations, which I wrote some down as well. I'll read and then
You can go for it.
Okay. So
go for it.
1, I don't have to earn love through suffering. I deserve peace, tenderness, and respect without condition. Strength isn't staying in pain, it's having the courage to choose myself. I am worthy of love that honors me. I release the belief that I must struggle to be loved. I choose peace, safety, and joy in every relationship that I build. I deserve love that doesn't hurt. My safety and peace are non-negotiable, and speaking my truth is an act of courage and healing.
I love it. I think those are good.
Okay. All right, so that's the end of today's topic. I have future topics here, spiritual abuse, which maybe we can get into some more.
Okay.
I don't know if abuse back to back feels familiar for people.
Maybe not for November.
Put in the comments.
Yeah, I was about to say, but I do like it. I think maybe December.
Holiday season? Spiritual abuse?
Oh, we could do grief and holidays.
Sure, okay, yeah.
Or January.
Yeah.
Like after we set some goals. Remember, and then like you can just do a quick goal set and then go right into that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we'll start January strong with spiritual abuse. So we'll see you guys next month in November, as well as December, Christmas, holiday season celebrations. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
We don't know about that one.
The December one?
Or we might do something earlier in
December.
December in order to do maybe or maybe do one that's like in like a November, December.
That would be good, actually.
So that way we can do a holiday in grief and catch a little bit of Thanksgiving /
that would be
any
perfect.
other holidays that you celebrate during December and New Year.
Yeah, that would actually be good if we do it ending of November.
Because it's like the last week anyway, so we can do it either that week right before, and that can close out our
yeah. All right.
So y'all know now we won't be here in December, but we got you in November, and we'll give some holiday grief. Tips.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Be well.
Be well.
Oh, it's 3:10.
Yeah, I was
We got
just
some deliveries.